Yesterday, a Niles woman was sentenced after her 7-week-old son was mauled by a German Shepherd. 29-year-old Brianna McNeese, pleaded guilty to child endangering charges. And in June of last year, McNeese and her husband, Dylan Gallagher, fell asleep on the couch with their son. The infant suffered a lacerated liver and other injuries after being attacked by the dog. He's expected to make a full recovery, thankfully. Gallagher also pleaded guilty. So this morning, what are your legal responsibilities as a dog owner? That's the topic for Legally Speaking this morning with Brian Kopp. He's in for Dave Beatrice.
Morning. Good morning.
Brian, it's always so good to have you.
Good to be here again.
So this is a very interesting case. Let's start with the basics. If you own a dog and it bites someone, what happens?
You know, people misunderstand sometimes the difference between criminal liability and civil liability. In this tragic case, it talks about the criminal liability someone's facing. Civil liability is what we see a lot. You know, in Ohio, it's been reported there were over 17,000 dog bites last year in the state that required medical treatment. So in those cases, your homeowner's insurance defends you. If you do the proper things, secure insurance, if you disclose that you own a dog on the property, and then people can recover for their medical bills, their pain and suffering. But it takes, you need a lawyer, you need to file your claim, you sometimes need to file a lawsuit.
Yeah, and I think what makes this case interesting, and Niles, the dog's owner, said they fell asleep on the couch with their infant, and that's when the dog attacked the baby. It's their own dog. So how do authorities determine, whether or not this is just a horrible accident?
Very few criminal statutes deal with injuries that dogs cause. So in this case, when we talk about criminal, we talk about the intent. And I believe this was an endangering charge. So that has a different mental state. In civil liability, it's strict liability. If you own a dog and it bites somebody, you can be held liable. We do not need to prove intent. Now, there are some exceptions to that. We talk about statutory cases and common law cases, which is the legalese that we learn through all these processes. But at the end of the day, most of the time it comes down to, is the dog secured? Is it on the leash? In this situation in the home, it's tragic, but obviously this dog must have presented some issues prior that the prosecutor thought, we need to take a look at this.
Okay. And are certain breeds of dogs treated differently in these cases?
Yeah, we practice in 3, 4, 5 different states at times. So each state is different. In Florida, they have classifications. In Ohio, they have classifications. I've handled a case in Michigan. So yes, there are dogs, the buzzword that we hear a lot is vicious or dangerous dogs. And in some states, you have to prove that the dog actually bit somebody first before you can bring an action against them.
Now, is it different if it happens on your own property?
No, there is no real property distinction. The law in Ohio talks about whether you're the owner or if somebody's harboring a dog. So there can be some differences in that aspect. But in Ohio, for civil purposes, if your dog bites somebody, it's a strict liability tort or civil action.
Wow. Yeah. Well, 30 seconds, Brian. I just want to know, a lot of us, we have dogs. Give us some advice. We do not want a mugshot.
Yeah, it's hard. So many people are dog lovers, but they are animals at the end of the day. If you have children, be careful. If you have guests, be super careful.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Attorney Brian Kopp. All right. Legally speaking, dog bites. Make sure you keep your dog, on a leash.
And we got the donuts here on time today.
We have the donuts.
Here, yes.